Well, welcome and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Last week, I had an extremely disturbing constituent email. My longtime friend Larry Groh called me to talk about a hate-filled letter that he and his family had received on their front lawn, and it named former elected officials of both parties, public servants, including retired state troopers, and even some Thompson high school students. I had the opportunity to read this letter, and it's not something I would want anyone to see, because it was racist, it was sexist, it was homophobic, it was anti-Semitic, and it was filled with vile and hateful language. Larry Groh had the courage to report this incident to elected officials and also to law enforcement to ensure that this kind of behavior would not continue. I called the state police, and our office also reached out to the FBI and the United States Attorney's Office. As we prepared for this press conference today, unfortunately, I learned yesterday that there was a racist attack, an anti-Semitic attack on the Black Lives Matter mural that is being painted in Hartford. Someone painted a swastika on that mural, and it's just a few steps away from our state capitol. So yesterday I had the opportunity to visit and thank the artists who had come back to paint over that symbol. And I want to thank those artists for that important step. And I want to thank everyone who has come in solidarity today to stand with Larry and his family. We have folks who have come from the Anti-Defamation League. We have folks who've come from the NAACP and other organizations to speak out against this behavior. And we're here today because, unfortunately, what happened to Larry and his family, and by the way, maybe 100 others. You can ask the first selectman in Thompson, but she believes that about 100 families received the same letter that Larry did. And unfortunately, in our state, we've seen an uptick in the numbers of these kinds of hate-filled incidents. The hate crimes unit within the state police was formed last year, and in a short time, they've seen an uptick as well. The ADL will talk about this, but according to the ADL, 207 incidents involving white supremacist propaganda were recorded in 2022, and that's a 115% increase over the number they saw in 2021. An estimated 1 in 10 of our communities around the state have been targeted with white supremacist stickers and flyers with racist and homophobic and sexist messages. This puts Connecticut at number 9 in terms of the number of these incidents, and we're a small state. So it is deeply disturbing to me that we have to be here, but it's important to put an end to hate. That's why we have the Hate Crimes Advisory Council, because it is their job under our state law to raise awareness and to encourage people to step forward and report these incidents if they see them. So to Larry and his family and the residents of Thompson, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, but thank you so much for standing up and speaking up. We want to work together to make Connecticut a state where everyone is welcome and no one has to endure this terrible hate. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce our Commissioner of Public Safety, Commissioner James Ravella. And Commissioner, thank you so much for having us here today at State Police Headquarters. Commissioner.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Governor, guests. Under normal conditions, I probably want you here to explain some good piece of police work or some advancement with the other 5 divisions that work for emergency services and public protection for the citizens of the state of Connecticut. But today we're going to explain a really disgusting trend. It seems to be both organized and by lone individuals to engage in hurtful, disruptive speech and actions that tear at the very fabric of our communities and our folks that live in those communities. And for those of you who are sitting home or engaging in these activities, don't feel empowered. Don't think that we're paying all this attention just to you because of what you've done. Keep looking over your shoulders. Because once you cross that line to criminality, you'll bear the full brunt of our efforts. Nationally, hate crimes are up, according to the FBI, especially in the anti-Semitic incidents. In Connecticut, our statistics don't show that. That causes me to pause as Commissioner and really say, are we getting down to the areas where we want to get to? Are we having that difficulty between hate crimes and incidents? So last year, the legislature, in their wisdom, formed a hate crime unit for the Connecticut State Police. And with that legislation, it requires local municipalities within 14 days to send these incidents to the Connecticut State Police so we can have an overall state of Connecticut look at what is actually happening. It also requires us to form a new committee with post and post counsel who regulates police officers with a form that really starts to dig into exactly what we're trying to cultivate. Really what it means is we're into the weeds of what really happens during these incidents. And that form will be available with the assistance of the IRNP to both a citizen who wants to report it not just to police, but to those folks, or do they want to report it to the police? We're available for both. So, ladies and gentlemen, the things I'd like to tell you, I really can't. Only because it's so disgusting, I probably wouldn't really express it as well. But when I said look over your shoulders, you really should. In the eastern part of the state, we've had 2 alarming incidents. 2. One I can't talk about because it's a juvenile involved, and the other is in Thompson. And then as I pick up the morning paper or look at the shot last night, they defaced a mural of Black Lives Matter in the city that I worked in. Disgusting. Very disgusting. So on behalf of the governor, Lieutenant Governor has already said that, in all of state, including our federal agencies, our attorney generals, we stand in solidarity to denounce this behavior. And on behalf of myself and my friends, and some of my new friends, we won't be intimidated. What I've always been taught, ladies and gentlemen, by my parents, is what you do in the shadows always comes to light. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to feel the full brunt of law enforcement, cross over that line into a crime, and we'll accommodate you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your leadership because really we're here to condemn hate speech, and even if it doesn't cross the line into criminality. And it is my pleasure to bring up Connecticut State Police Lieutenant Kate Cummings for a few remarks. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. On June 5th, 2023, at approximately 10:30 p.m., the state police were called to investigate the first of several letters that were distributed in numerous driveways in Thompson. The letters contained language that the recipients found offensive, and the state police investigation was launched, with detectives checking all leads. This case in Thompson is currently active and continues to be under investigation. We want to assure that any suspected hate crime within our jurisdictions will be investigated to the fullest extent possible. The State Police Hate Crimes Investigative Unit is a separate team dedicated to investigating cases related to bias incidents and hate crimes. Our detectives are trained to identify whether a particular case is a hate crime, and they will follow every possible lead. This unit collaborates directly with the citizens of Connecticut, attending numerous public engagement events. We listen to community concerns and provide knowledge and training and resources on preventing individuals from becoming victims of hate crimes. This hate crimes unit does not work alone. Its members cooperate with local, state, and federal law enforcement. The vital collaboration allows our detectives to prevent and detect criminal activity, analyze case reports and data, and share relevant information related to hate crime cases. As you heard with our commissioner, this unit also works alongside nonprofit organizations that provide up-to-date knowledge and information in various communities to help understand and evolve our ever-changing landscape. Members of the Hate Crimes Unit assisted with the Police Officer Standards and Training Council in developing the statewide Hate Crimes Police and Reporting Form, as you heard earlier. This ensures a consistent reporting and collection of data with hate crimes across the state. Be assured that the Hate Crimes Unit and the Connecticut State Police are committed to the mission of investigating hate crimes and bias incidents. We provide expertise and guidance to other law enforcement agencies and working towards the prevention and detection of hate crimes in the state of Connecticut. If you feel that you are a victim of a hate crime or you see a hate crime incident, please call 911, report to state or local authorities, or you can email hate.crimes@ct.gov. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Thompson First Selectman, Amy St. Ange, who came all this way because she's very concerned about her residents, and we appreciate that, Amy. Thank you so much.
And I'd like to thank the Lieutenant Governor for bringing this to the forefront, putting this as a top priority. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for looking out for Thompson.
Absolutely.
I also want to thank the Connecticut State Police for the work that they've been doing on this case. We thank them for their service every day. So from the get-go, I just want to state that this is a minority. This is a small fraction of who Thompson is. This does not represent our entire community. And I'm here in the statement that I'm going to make today, I hope to represent the majority. The United States Constitution guarantees its citizens freedom of speech. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. For myself, as a patriotic American, I treasure the freedoms guaranteed me by the U.S. Constitution. These freedoms are the heartbeat of this nation. Eleanor Roosevelt is quoted as saying, "Freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility," and I agree. Freedom can be abused as we saw in my town last week. It truly broke my heart to see a member of my community spew hate-filled words aimed at fellow community members. You see, 4 years ago, I embarked on a campaign for First Selectman. It was and still is my mission to create unity in a world that is sharply divided. I am governed by the laws of this land, but greater laws found in Holy Scripture govern my heart every day. Romans 12:18 says, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." I am charged to live that out every single day. The Creator of the universe has called all humanity to live at peace with one another. In Thompson, there is no place for hate and intolerance. I envision a community that embraces diversity of thought and welcomes healthy debate and discussion. I reject violence and intimidation in the public dialogue. We will thrive when we see beyond our differences and work side by side to achieve common goals. Though our opinions may differ, we know that by working together to arrive at that common ground, we can do great things that will positively affect the community as a whole now and for the future generations to come. Let's make a difference together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam First Selectwoman. It is now my pleasure to bring up Larry Groh, who's here with his wife and his daughter. Larry.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address this very important matter. As Thompson's former First Selectman and a current resident of Thompson, it sickens me to see any community member targeted. The distribution of a hate-filled letter of every level especially stings deeply for my wife Erica and I, as it targeted 3 generations of our family members. From my mother, whom passed away several years ago, and who was also a former First Selectman of Thompson, to our beautiful daughter, whom has never held a public office. My wife Erica and I have a deep love for our community, and there is only one thing we love more than our community, and that is our family. The hate-filled letter that was distributed in Thompson to hundreds of homes targets elected officials, both alive and deceased, town employees, state police officers, retired state police officers, and families of all, span generations, as I mentioned. That letter was trying to intimidate politicians, intimidate voters, and trying to stop people from exercising their constitutional right through hate. The individual or individuals are trying to target and terrorize an entire community, and they need to be held accountable. Furthermore, we know this is a bigger issue than just one community, one town, or one state. With that, I would like to end with a quote from Senator Robert F. Kennedy. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sets forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, and daring those ripples to build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Thank you to each of you who are here today for doing just that. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Larry, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to bring up the state senator that represents the town of Thompson and other communities in eastern Connecticut, State Senator May Flexer.
Good morning. It's heartbreaking to be here this morning, but I'm also filled with gratitude. I'm filled with gratitude for the people from Thompson who stood up, who experienced this hate last Monday and stood up against it. I'm very grateful to the Groh family for their leadership and being here and making sure that it's crystal clear to everyone that this kind of rhetoric, this kind of attack, this kind of speech, this kind of intimidation is not acceptable in Thompson or in any part of our state here in Connecticut. It is very brave to come forward and to say how this has impacted your families, and I can't express my gratitude to the people who've stood up against this enough. I've been really proud as a state senator to work with my colleagues in the Senate, as has already been mentioned this morning, to strengthen our hate crimes law here in Connecticut, to create the hate crimes unit in the state police, so that we can be sure that when incidents like this happen, when people in our community are treated this way, they know that whoever committed these heinous acts will be held to the highest standards of the law, and that our state police have the resources, and I'm very grateful to the state police for their leadership in this arena and in this particular incident. We know that they will hold these people to account, that they will be treated, these attacks will be treated seriously because of the state police investigation and because of the leadership of the people of Thompson. And finally, I just want to say that I'm hopeful that the strong bipartisan showing you see here this morning is going to do the opposite of what this letter was intended to do. This letter was intended to scare people away from the political arena, to scare families with decades of commitment to their community, and scare people who were new into getting involved in leadership in Thompson. High school students were intimidated in this attack. But the opposite is going to happen because of this. We are standing strong against this kind of intimidation, and we are proving that in the public discourse here in Connecticut, everyone is welcome. All viewpoints are welcome, and people who threaten hate and violence and other heinous attacks, you will be ostracized, and we will continue to have a community in northeastern Connecticut that welcomes all spectrums, all people across the political spectrum, and it will thrive in spite of the hate that you tried to spew. Thank you very much.
May, thank you so much for your leadership. It's now my pleasure to bring up Stacy Sobel, who is representing the Anti-Defamation League in Connecticut.
Thank you so much. Very sadly, incidents like this that affect an entire community, that create fear, that create scared, people are scared, can be accomplished by just one person getting up off their couch. That's all it takes in many incidents. We here at the Connecticut ADL keep track of hate incidents that are reported to us. Over the last 4 years, we have experienced a 265% increase in hate incidents that have been reported to us. So the data is alarming. But what can we do? We're all here today to work together. What can we do to make a change? Number one, the very first thing is to speak out like we're doing here today. Every one of these elected leaders and community leaders is modeling for community members the way to speak out against hate. Let's remember that we have a voice. Number two, report hate incidents and hate crimes to law enforcement or to ADL. The data is really crucial in order for us to affect legislative change. Number three, be educated about what hate groups and what ideology is affecting Connecticut. You can go to the ADL website. We have something called the HEAT map, which stands for hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, and terrorism. The map keeps track of data across the nation of all these incidents. You can drill down. You can see what's happening here in Connecticut or in your town. Number four, use social media to spread positive messages. Do not amplify hate messages and report hate messages to social media companies. Number five, vote. Even for your election for Board of Education, vote and vote for leaders that are going to stand up against hate. Working together, Connecticut is no place for hate.
Thank you. Stacy, thank you so much. Our final speaker will be Attorney Amy Lynn Meyerson, who is speaking on behalf of the Connecticut Hate Crime Advisory Council, and there are other members of the council here too.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for bringing us together to address these hurtful actions that are targeting Connecticut citizens. I, along with my fellow members of the Connecticut Hate Crimes Advisory Council, including Commissioner Abella, Chief Bowden Lewis, Stacy Sobel, and Steve Hernandez, who are here today, are working with our broad base of knowledge, our skills, and also our diverse experiences with the Governor's Office, the legislatures, the law enforcement, judges, and our communities. The Connecticut Hate Crimes Advisory Council is a resource for everyone here in Connecticut. We are working to increase community awareness and reporting hate crimes so that we can prevent and combat hate crimes for a safer and more inclusive Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. And we will now take questions from our media partners, and thank you to our media partners for coming today.
I have a question for Commissioner Ravella. You mentioned that the law that was passed last year required reports to be placed in the state police. Can you talk about how many reports you've received in the year since that law went into effect, and then how many of those have resulted in an arrest or some type of enforcement action?
Right now, I couldn't give you an actual number. It is a work in progress. We are seeing quite a few reports from local municipalities. The arrests are tracked by that local municipality, so I couldn't give you a number on that one. I do know the state police numbers. I saw 3 arrests just this year. So that's the best I can tell you right now.
Have there been arrests made in either of these cases that we've talked about, Thompson or Hartford?
Neither. There's a person of interest in Thompson, and they are looking for suspects in the Hartford incident. In the other case I referred to out east, there was a juvenile referral made.
Do we have any information about whether the Hartford and Thompson incidents are related to any particular organized group, any hate group or white supremacist group?
I don't have any information like that yet.
Is there any indication that any of those incidents were organized in general, or that they were connected?
Presently, they're still under investigation, but right now I'd have to tell you no.
So you're thinking this was sort of what they call a lone wolf, someone acting on their own?
I seldom use that term, but it's too early in the investigation to make any ties.
I want to follow up on my earlier question. So it seems like we have statewide numbers in terms of the numbers. We know that there's been an increase in incidents, but is there no statewide tracker in terms of being able to keep track of arrests of people who are brought to account for this?
There is a statewide tracker. It was just published by the Connecticut State Police for the year 2021. It was published earlier this year, so there is tracking.
But there's nothing more recent than 20, because when did the law go into effect, 22?
The law went into effect in 22, but the tracking is for law enforcement to submit reports within 14 days, and also compels us to develop a new form and introduce that also.
Are we seeing an increase in arrests being made?
I'm seeing a trend of juveniles being radicalized at an earlier age. I'm seeing a trend of juvenile referrals for those children. And when these incidents come up, if it rises to the level of a arrest and somebody's been identified, we will go through the state's attorney's office for process.
What are the charges these folks will face?
Do you have some information?
So with any case where we're looking at the possibility of a bias crime or a hate crime, there's always going to be several steps that are taken. So we're talking very generally. Collaboration with the state's attorney is always important, especially in juvenile matters. And we have a relatively new law that's intimidation based on bigotry or bias. And that is oftentimes the one that we are looking at and analyzing whether or not the actions that are being reported rise to a crime, that level of crime. I think a big takeaway, and we've heard it from several of our speakers, is we can't prosecute, we can't arrest if it's not reported. And so the numbers are definitely increasing. We've seen an increase in reports coming our way, but we cannot take action, we cannot prosecute, we cannot bring justice if it's not being reported. And so we definitely encourage members of the public to speak up, as you've seen here today. call 911, report it to your local agency, or you can report it directly to the hate crimes unit at that email address.
And has that new statute been used before?
Yes, I don't have the numbers over the course of the last few years, but that is absolutely analyzed. It's used with frequency.
And Lieutenant, while you're still up there, can you talk a little bit, I mean, we talk a lot about how we respond to these things after they're reported. Can you talk about how this new hate crimes unit is sort of trying to prevent these things from happening, I guess in terms of monitoring online chatter, you know, social media, dark web groups?
Absolutely. So the partnership with both federal partners, local partners, and then other state agencies, like you said, monitoring social media platforms, distributing information out to law enforcement before incidents occur to try and prevent. Our hate crimes unit has also been doing community outreach, doing public presentations for any group that requests it, trying to give citizens of our state information on ways that they can report and ways to tell whether or not it's a hate crime. We want to arm people with the most up-to-date information as possible.
What are the if a crime is reported, what are the challenges that may be in place in the investigation process in terms of whether or not that results in an arrest?
So hate crimes can be challenging, and what we can often find is that some of these bias incidents might not rise to a criminal level, but what is important to know that there is a civil aspect to this. And so just because a crime has not been deemed to have occurred, an arrest does not occur, there could still be civil liability for the offender in these cases. And I think that's important to know. Another big challenge we're seeing, as you heard the commissioner say, is that we are seeing radicalization of juveniles. And the juvenile justice system is confidential, and so it can be frustrating for victims of crimes when we are making referrals to the juvenile justice system because we cannot release that information. It's kept confidential. So if the offender is under the age of 18, that can make it challenging for both law enforcement and the victims to feel whole after that.
All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Great